Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of I Am My Own Story. And I have a special guest here who was on a previous show of Friendly Differences, um, Miss Kimberly Michael. And today we are going to talk about domestic violence. Now, if any of you guys follow her TikTok channel, which you should, um, she gets pretty deep. She gets pretty deep. So I wanted to invite her to talk about a subject that, even though it's 2022, people still don't want to talk about it. People still want to, just either talk about it in private. They don't want to put it out there, even though it's a subject like many things that need to be out there. So without further ado, here's Miss Kimberly Michael. And do you want to, I'll just let you start, you want to talk about your story or however you want to start it.
Hi, and thank you. It's always good to see your face. And, I appreciate, I'm always honored when someone invites me into their space, because, as you know, your own space is what it is, and people can come and go. You're like me, whoever it is. But when you're invited somewhere, for a specific conversation, especially one like this, I'm grateful. So my story, I mean, I basically, the short version is that when I was 25, 26, I got into a relationship with a man that I just was convinced was the love of my life. And I spent the next 20 years in a very dehumanizing situation. I spoke on domestic violence on TikTok because it was Domestic Violence Awareness Month. But like I spoke, I don't even use, as many times as you've been on the show, you probably rarely heard me even say that I was in a domestic violence situation, because there's so much more than just what looks like domestic violence, And so I'm not really an advocate, believe it or not, for domestic violence. And that's because I'm, in the process of healing those wounds and rectifying who I was as a woman in that time frame. I spent 20 years. The first time he hit me was 2 weeks in, and the last time he hit me was the day I put him in prison and walked away, or put him in jail and walked away. So it went on for 20 years, and there was way more than physical abuse. I was literally hazed, tortured, held captive, restrained, threatened repeatedly, raped repeatedly. And so to say domestic violence, I don't think it really covers what we as women go through. Yes, there are some that just get plummeted on a regular basis and there's not anything else to it. And yes, there are some that have these backgrounds that we don't know about because they're ashamed and embarrassed that they live that way and choose the people that they choose. But at the end of the day, it needs to be exposed. And that's why I spoke and decided to say something during that month, about it.
So, it's interesting because I'm listening to what you're saying, and I don't think a lot of people realize that domestic violence, at least to me, is also verbal. That when people are putting you down, and even if you're not in, marriage or something like that, just people who put you down and call you names and stuff, that's also a term of domestic violence. But during this time, did you ever, like you said you were in it for 20 years, at any point a year in, 3 weeks after you got married, 10 years down the road, what made you stay for so long?
That is the biggest question that I get. The biggest question that I get is, why did you stay? Why did you stay for so long? And so that's an answer I had to dissect for my own self. My answers have changed over the last 7 years that I've been free from that relationship. But my answer is now because I was broken. I was broken going into the relationship. I was wounded. I hadn't healed anything. I didn't even know that I needed to heal anything, you know. I still believe that, you know, love conquered all, you know, and so I was just brutally broken. But then you add in that you're being browbeaten, you're being threatened, you're in fear of your life. I had so I had 3 children at the time. 2 were biologically his, 1 was from my first husband. And I remember the life-changing thought or decision that I made. And I was tired. I was so tired, and our youngest was about a year old, and our middle child was 2, and our oldest was 5.
Okay. All right. Kimberly,
Called me into the.
let me stop you for a moment because you froze up. Can you, at the bottom of your screen where you see stop video and there's a little drop down arrow, can you click that and put it on high resolution 720?
It just says, well, let me see if it's on more audio video settings.
Yeah, does it say high resolution?
I found one. Hold on. High resolution. Yes.
Yes.
Got
So
it.
yeah, click. Yeah. Okay. That's better. Yeah.
How's
Okay.
that?
Good. All right. So,
Sure.
so during all this time, did your children, being as young as they were, did they ever say, "Mommy, can we leave? Can we go? I'm scared. What do we do?"
So there's so much to my story that is. So I was able to hide the abuse. With that being said, I learned later on that my oldest son had witnessed this incident that I was just speaking of a few minutes ago, had witnessed that. I did not know that his entire childhood. He kept that to him. They were young. I knew that they witnessed it, but I just assumed that they were so young that they didn't remember. So he had witnessed the one incident. They all witnessed it, but he remembered. I did not know that. With that being said, moving forward, none of my children, none of my friends, and none of my family knew what was happening. No one knew that he was abusing me. I kept everything hidden. With that being said, I could not hide his own behavior towards our children. But outside looking in, I created the most beautiful reality for everyone about our relationship and our children. And I spoke very highly of him to everyone, including our children. I lied to save face so that they wouldn't feel some type of way about their father, so that they could maintain their own relationship with him outside of what he was doing to me. So no, my children, until the very end, the first restraining order I got about 6 or 7 months before I actually left him. And I took him back after that because he just fucking he tormented me terribly, terribly. And I couldn't take it. And I was by myself, and I took him back. I dropped the restraining order then, but they still did not know that there was abuse. They just knew they could openly see his aggression now, because it got to the point it escalated where I couldn't control it, you know.
Well,
So,
what was the tipping point that made you just say, "I'm done"? And like you said, she's in prison. I mean, what was your tipping point?
so again, my children had never witnessed the physical abuse. He was military, so there was a whole PTSD journey that we were accepting of at the later stages of our relationship. But one night, it was just our daughter and me and him home. Our oldest son had moved to Florida. He was living with his grandmother, but he was grown, like in his 20s. And our youngest son was at work, and he started his shit in the room. And what he was doing was shoving me up against the wall. and I was trying to get away from him. And so he's shoving me, and I can't see my hand, but he's shoving me, hear my body hitting the wall, right? So my daughter, of course, can hear this, and she comes to our room and she tries to open the door. And when she does, I mean, he slams that door. I know people slam doors, but this literally, I felt like you could hear it through the whole street. Like he slammed the door shut. It immediately caused her to be concerned. And he didn't stop, so she could still hear, and she's screaming at the door. What are you doing? What are you doing? What's going on? Why won't you let me in? You know, I managed to finally get away from him, out from under him, and get out of the door with the intention of leaving. At that time, we only had one vehicle, and he had the keys, and he had my phone. So I make my way out into the kitchen, and he attacks me in front of our daughter now. And he is trying to, he's behind me, literally. And my daughter is hysterical. She's 17 years old and she's never witnessed anything like this. And this is her father and her mother. And she basically jumps on him, jumps on his back. So I'm here, he's behind me, she's on his back. And he's unstoppable when he's in these fits of rage. He's physically powerful in a way you can't imagine. And he slings her off, and she picks up a pan, like a frying pan. We're in the kitchen. And when he sees that, he just tosses me across the room, and he turns on our daughter and he starts throwing punches. 1, 2, 3. She's backing up. She's pulling away from him. He got her shoulder, her arm, and like a piece of her chest, thank God. But he was throwing man punches at her. And the look on her face and the pain. And I just looked at her and I just said, call the police. I didn't have my phone. I said, call the police. That day, and I speak on this a lot, me as a woman was not ready. I was wanting to leave. I know I needed to leave. I knew that he was going to kill me one day, whether it was on purpose or not, that was my life was going to end. It had almost ended a multitude of times over the 20 years, maybe 100 or more nights when I thought he was going to kill me that night. And the mama in me is what happened. The mama in me, that's just not something I can tolerate. I don't care what your title is. My seeds are everything to me. They are everything that I am, and part of so much of who I am as a mama and a woman, and I couldn't let it go. And so I put him in jail that night. I mean, he ran. They had to look for him, but they finally found him. Actually, his niece turned him in. He came to her door wanting, to hide, and she wouldn't let him in, and she called the police, and they found him. But I can't risk my children's physical well-being, their emotional state. I couldn't. And I'm not going to lie, it was very challenging for me to do it. But the mama in me came through when the woman in me couldn't.
Well, do you think that your children, even though they never visually witnessed it, they heard what was going on, like they knew?
So, well, now having conversations, they always heard something. Well, not always. They heard things. And per them, they thought it was sexual stuff. Like they had no idea that I'm in there being tortured and beaten, and you can't hear somebody being strangled. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't hear that. He was physical, but it wasn't like a fight where if he would hit me or if he would put his hands on me in that sort of way, like a hit, it was rare. But he choked me a lot. And don't get me wrong, I've been slapped, punched, he has definitely, physically abused me, but a lot of what he did to me was torture. And it was, my little fat cheeks, I tell this story all the time. He would grab me like this and squeeze my face so hard and be in my face. And he would do this for an hour or more, sometimes longer. And he would, my face, what's his name? Tell me who he is. Just tell me you don't love me. Just tell me this is all a setup. I mean, we're like 10 years in and he's going on about this. And I would have these bruises on the side of my cheeks. But the way my face is set up, you couldn't, unless I said, look right here, they just kind of blended into my face.
Mm-hmm.
So it was that. My arms would be bruised, my body would be, and he would keep me up sometimes all night, torturing me, harassing me. The radio would be on and all those things. So there wasn't a lot of noise, if you will, because he put the TV or the radio on. This is why I say hazing. He put the TV or the radio on really loud. He would barricade the door. And then they couldn't hear over that if there was any like clamoring around. Okay. But keep in mind, I didn't fight back either. And so they did hear and they did witness, but they didn't know that it was physical abuse that was happening. So,
well, Kimberly, let me ask this: why do you think that women or even men tend to stay? Do you think it's more of a financial thing? Do you think it's more of that they've just beat you down so much? And I'm even talking about early on when you see that, okay, whatever. Why do you think that people stay, especially when they have children? Because I truly believe that there are a lot of women in relationships that they don't want to be in, but because of children, because of financial, and even, way back when, before women really got into the workforce, I think a lot of women were just trapped. So, yeah.
I mean, you feel trapped because it's not something that you share. I mean, it sounds like, oh my God, you didn't tell anybody? No. And a lot of women don't. No one even had an inclination about what I was going through until I left and had to publicly post my situation. I didn't want to, but he was trying to track me down. I was in hiding and he was trying to find me and he was going through people telling them lies.
Did you reach out to any shelters or anything where you wouldn't have to tell people you knew, but you can tell a stranger?
I attempted, but the first time that I attempted to leave and go into a shelter, my oldest son was 19 or 20 and they wouldn't allow him in the shelter. They wanted me and the two kids were allowed, but my oldest son, they told him to go to someone's house, one of his friends.
Because he wasn't a minor.
He wasn't a minor. And like I told them, I want to curse so bad right now. You dumb.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. This is a pre-recorded show. Go ahead.
I feel like at the time I was like, you dumb fucks. My husband knows every friend that he has. He will immediately be knocking on every door and it will come out on my child. He will be in his, where's your mama at? You know what I mean? I couldn't do that. I can't tell you how many nights we slept in a Walmart parking lot in the car with my kids. Just to be safe, for me to be safe that night. And even then they still didn't know about the physical abuse. They just thought that this was part of his PTSD that he claimed to have that he didn't have. I mean, he never even saw war. So that's a whole nother story, but I mean, you couldn't get it. You couldn't do that. And then he started stalking me. I put him in prison. I'm in jail. I got a protection order and he wouldn't stop. And what happens is you press charges, he catches a charge, he goes to jail and somebody bails him out and then he's right back at it. And sometimes you can get them on the charge, sometimes you can't. So I had to leave. I had to go. I had to leave the state.
May I ask, is he still in prison now, or?
He's never served more than 90 days. We were at the time that I decided to leave, me and the DA discussed, there was multiple misdemeanor charges, but there was a couple felonies. He had broken into the house one time and came after our daughter, and he had also defied a judge's direct order. And so he had 2 felonies and maybe 5 or 6 misdemeanors for violation. And they wouldn't globalize the case. At the time, I always thought that really frustrated me, that they wouldn't put all these cases together. But so at the time, I was frustrated with the system. Everyone, including the police that would come to my house, were saying, you need to get a weapon, you need to he's going to kill you. Like, we've watched this happen a million times. And so I put him, I decided that we would do a plea agreement. We dropped all the misdemeanor charges and he copped to the 2 felonies, which then put him in a position in the state of Colorado where he is, that if there's another felony involved, then he gets an automatic 12 years. And the DA said maybe he'll be afraid of the 12 years since he's not just afraid of anything else. It didn't, it didn't stop him, and it didn't happen, but
Wait. So he got another felony and he didn't get the automatic 12 years?
So a year and a half later, I'm sorry, a year and a half ago, actually in this December, it'll be 2 years now, I guess. Yeah, 2 years now. He got the 2 felonies, and that was it. The misdemeanor, all the misdemeanor charges got dropped. He did the 2 felonies in the hopes that if there was another felony that came about, that would. So fast forward, 2 years ago, he beat his current girlfriend and put her in ICU. He beat her with a crutch. She had just had ankle surgery. He beat her with her crutches, put her in ICU, and he did all of that in front of her grandchildren. He went to jail. He was on the run for several days. He went to jail. He got out.
She took him back. What happened to the automatic 12?
She took him back. Then he beat her again, and then he fled again. And in Colorado or any state, and I don't know if people know this, but if you alter the state of another human being in the course of a domestic violence, because domestic violence is a misdemeanor, but if you alter the state of a person, in other words, I think he broke her collarbone and possibly broke her nose or something, and that altered, it becomes a felony. So he got that felony. When he beat her, he was drunk. Him driving, so he caught a DUI. Because of the protection orders that I have, he's not allowed to drink or smoke marijuana or carry weapons. So then he caught another charge for violating my protection order, non-domestic, because he was inebriated and because he had marijuana in his system. So all of these things happened. There was witnesses and everything. I've been following and going to the court system, watching these things go down. They globalized her case, which means they put the DUI, the felony, the misdemeanors, the domestic violence, all into one basket. On the day that the court, after repeated extensions, the day of the court, which was literally only a few months ago, he walked in. The one witness, the neighbor that kept showing up, didn't show up. I'm sure he was tired at that point, and she didn't show up. All of his charges were dropped. One court case, all of the felonies, all of the misdemeanors, everything that I had been through, waiting and wanting and hoping that, this would be, they were all dismissed because no one showed up to, and the state doesn't take any responsibility. And prior to this, let me just throw this in, the state of our situation was that he actually is with a woman who has the same last name as me. It is not a common last name. So the first time they were going to court, they kept referring, he's already been through this and he did everything that the court asked him to do. The court saw the same woman pursuing the same case 4 years later, instead of them seeing that he was a repeat offender, they thought I was the repeat offender. And I had to like publicly state to the court that this is a completely separate person and that there was a woman before me as well too, but that was before internet. So it was just paperwork that I found when I left him, that there was 3 or 4 restraining orders from his first wife. Then there was a restraining order for me, and our daughter has a restraining order. And this is one of the fights for women. Like, I'm still fighting now to change my protection order because he's still violating it almost 7 years in. He still texts me and calls me. And I'm, I shouldn't have to, change my phone numbers and block him every time there's I shouldn't have to do those things. I should be able to live in peace. But the system is not set up for domestic violence and for the safety of women in domestic violence. It's just not. It's not.
Well, Kimberly, the system, in my opinion, has never been set up for women at all. I mean, this world is controlled and run by men. If you are married to a police officer and he's beating you up, more than likely, his friends are gonna, oh, well, why don't you just, not say anything, whatever, meanwhile, what's going to have to happen that I die for you guys to see, and even then they'll still protect them. It's not set up for women, and it's not set up for children. It's not set up for people of color. It's set up for white men. And women are just going through so much. So I'm listening to you, and I know that there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of other women who are going through the same thing, and other children who are going through the same thing in terms of an abusive parent, whatever. But the courts will say, well, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but there's just no way. And just because no one showed up at court, you're going to dismiss everything? I mean, it's not a traffic. We're not talking about a traffic ticket. You're talking about someone who is a repeat offender. They have it on record. What has to happen? How many people have to die? How many people have to get hurt?
I literally was on the phone with an advocate screaming at her. And I said, if someone does not do something, I am going to die. I'm screaming. And I'm not really like that. Anymore,
Kimberly, the problem is if you did do something, if you did take up that weapon and you did something, they'll put you in jail really fast.
Without a protection order. But let me say this, as much shit as I've been, let me say this, as much shit as I've been through. And first of all, let me say this to the women. I don't know who's going to see this and who's not, but let me say this for the women who are going to get a protection order. And please remember this, because this is one thing I will never forget. And I could see the looks on the women's faces, especially, and I'm not being funny, the uneducated women or the women who didn't speak really good English, regardless. I got my volume down. I don't know why that's happening, but problem is that you had to, they would say this to you without saying it. If you're getting a protection order, women, anyone, man and or women, please understand, you need to use the word imminent danger. You need to let the courts know an imminent danger. That is the way I have witnessed protection orders getting rejected because they didn't say that there was imminent danger. Literally, that's what needs to be said. But with that being said, it's still a fight. It's a fight for me to keep it. It's a fight for me to get it. It's a fight for me to change it. It's a fight to now be in, in a different state. It's never ending at this point for me. And I'm tired of it, honestly.
But Kimberly,
tired of it.
I'm going to ask the stupid question.
Not stupid, but go ahead.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is such a the courts are, why? Why do you think that?
We're stigmatized as battered women. What, that we take it, and why are we there, and why do we stay? And nobody considers the loneliness. Nobody considers the hopelessness. Nobody considers the brokenness. You ask me why people stay. People stay because they're broken, because they are wounded to a degree that they choose someone else instead of choosing themselves. And it is really hard to heal in a situation where you're being abused repeatedly. But that's the only way. Women don't leave, men don't leave. We stay because we are brutally broken. And there is something in us that believes that if we choose them enough days, choose them enough time, that will change the state of our relationship with them, and that they'll grow, and that they'll become what we anticipated them to be. And we don't address our own brokenness, and it stays that way. With that being said, people are tired of being involved in domestic relationships, and the women go back. You do everything you can. You help them, you feed them, you shelter them, you love them, you give them money, you help them do all these things, and then they about face and go home because you never help them heal. You just help them relocate their wounds, and they're going to go back for a multitude of reasons. A lot of times it's just out of a desperation to let this man leave you alone. They are relentless. Abusers are relentless in their pursuit of you leaving them. And and you're scared. They're threatening your family, they're threatening your children, they're threatening your friends. You don't know, because you're so broken, that these things won't come true, because no one else understands the type of violence that we speak about. You can't unless you've been there. So when I speak of violence, even now, when I tell people, like, he could come for me at any time. I'm locked and loaded at all times. I had a trainer, I have a pistol. He could come for me anytime, and you have to be ready. You have to be prepared. You, as the battered woman, have to do all the work to keep yourself safe and to keep yourself away from this person. There's no other options. The system is not going to help you. Your friends and family aren't going to help you, because if you don't find a way, when you get away from them, to heal the wounds that got you in the situation in the first place, you're either going to go back to him, or you're going to attract another person that does the same type of abuse to you, because you haven't done what you needed to do. Leaving is no easier than staying. The only difference is that leaving and the freedom and the healing is worth it. Staying, it is not. That's the only difference. It's still fucking hard. It's still so hard to be in this space and heal and stay, stay free from that life. It's challenging.
So you officially are no longer married to him, right?
I was officially never married to him, to be honest with you. I was with him for 20 years. We had a ceremony, we had a date, but we were never legally married. In fact, he was legally married to another woman for 18 years. They weren't together. We didn't know where she was. It wasn't like that, but I'm just saying. So
that was a good thing for you in terms of. Okay.
Yes. Okay. But in certain states, you have to be careful. In the state of Colorado, they actually said to me, you may want to go ahead and file for the divorce. They consider, I forget the verbiage, but him.
The common law.
Common law. They're very, very strict about that in Colorado. So they did say that, but my divorce was that I packed up. I went through 20 years of our things and separated all of our things, all of our pictures, our paperwork, our clothes. I separated everything that I've never separated before, and I neatly packed it up and put it in the garage, waiting for his police escort so he could come get it, because they have to come get their shit. There's so many levels that and the cops just let him stand there and talk to me. I was like, please, can you remove him from the premises? I don't want to talk to him. They let him break into the house. I wasn't there. There's just so many things that happen, but yeah.
So before we started recording, I asked you, is there anything I could not ask you? But I would like to know, if you want to provide this information, do your two youngest children, do they have somewhat a relationship with him? No relationship? does that bother you? Does it bother them?
The oldest walked away and never spoke to him again, and he'd been in his life for 2 years. He's still never spoken to him. My daughter, our daughter, has her own protection order against him, and she has no communication with him at all whatsoever from that day forward. And she's 25 and she's dealing with that right now. My youngest son came to me about a year later and said, that he wanted to speak to me and that he was going to be having lunch with his father. He calls him by his name. He doesn't call him dad anymore. He calls him by his legal name. He said he was going to have lunch with him the next day and that it was necessary for him not to hurt me, but that, he felt like if he didn't rectify this situation, that he would end up angry and hostile and violent like him. And so he felt the need to forgive him. And of course, yes, it's a torn situation because I want my children to heal. I need them to heal. I need them to be in a peaceful space. I need them to rectify the wounds that I created and or co-created. But it's also hard knowing that, what type of man that he's dealing with. He was 18 when he was having this conversation. He attempted a relationship with him for about a couple of years after that, and it became evident that it was not going to go well. And so he now has not communicated. So now at this point, none of them communicate with him, nor have they. The youngest one being for the last 2 years has not communicated with him. He has no, and literally he texted me the other day and said, can you have the kids text me? Long time. I know it's been a while, but can you have the kids contact me on their own if they want? Like nothing, like no regard. But yeah, they're all healing in their own way from what did happen and what they're learning from what happened. But I need them, and they know, and I say this all the time, they can say anything to me and they can do whatever they need to do as long as it promotes their healing. That's all I care about, is them being healed. That's it. And whatever it causes me as far as my emotions or my feelings is irrelevant to me, because I need them to heal. So whatever that looks like for them, I support 100%, whatever that looks like, even if it involves him. So. Well,
Kimberly, how do you, listening to all of this and, knowing women go through this, how do you deal with it? How do you get up every day and say, I'm going to have a good day today, or I'm going to do this? I mean, how do you keep going?
I lost you, so hold on. I'm trying to get back to you. So
yeah, you are frozen, but I can hear you.
You can hear me, and hopefully you can see, but I somehow have managed to discombobulate where you are in my phone. And when I pull it up, it doesn't come up what I want to anticipate. Let me do it this way, and maybe I can find you. Oh, here you are. Okay, so, well, this is kind of how the TikTok started. I've had several men in my life who have been saying to me, like, you really need to advocate and do these things. I'm just being honest. My mother's been saying the same thing since I left. And again, I haven't been a huge advocator because I still see the weakness in the women. And because I haven't rectified that weakness within myself, it's very hard for me to look at them and want to say something, because there's nothing I can say. There's never anything that I'm going to be able to say to any one woman that will make her go home and pack her shit and leave. That's never going to happen. But you
don't think so? You don't think that sharing your story, that if you were sitting in, like you see in the movies around, have a round circle, whatever, everybody's sitting on their chairs, that even though you may be in the same situation and you're still healing and you're still trying to, get that, something you say could help the person sitting next to you, and vice versa.
That's why I'm doing this interview with you. That's why I did the TikTok videos, because I'm never going to be able to say anything that's just going to turn them around. However, when I first went public with my story on Facebook, I didn't go bashing him. I just was actually stating like, hey, there's orders, and there's this and there's that, and this is what happened. And women were coming to me, you don't need to tell anybody, people don't care. I had so many people in my...
Hold on one second, because your internet is really weak. Okay, it's like going in and out.
Let me make sure I don't have any other things open. Okay, I just closed everything out. Is it better?
Yes, it is.
Maybe not. Okay. So, it's why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I am still transparent, because, right before the beating of the ex-girlfriend, and I'm just being honest, she called me. She wanted to talk to me. She wanted to know what kind of man that he was. And they'd been together at that point for like 3 years. And I told her that my self-preservation was more important than her need to acknowledge something that she already knew. And I felt bad initially afterwards, after he did, beat her to that extent. But I knew after she took him back after that, that there wasn't anything that I could have said. However, if my story promotes something or plants a seed in a woman that they can say, hey, look what she, went through, and not even what I went through, but the fact that I'm here and I'm out and I'm whole and I'm healing and I'm free, and it moves something in them that they begin to heal themselves enough that they can find a way to get out, then absolutely that's true. But it's just my story. Like, it's not me advocating for them. I also advocate for love. I also advocate for relationships. I also advocate for a lot of things. So I don't even know if it's called advocacy in my point. It's just that I want to be transparent. No one healed in front of me. No one said you could do these things. No one said I could be free. I'd resigned myself to a life with him forever. And when I realized, that wasn't going to happen, and then I got out and I realized how many people were in and how many people were coming to me saying, oh my God, I'm living the same life that you lived. And I left, I'm free, I'm gone, because you shared your story. It wasn't one thing I said. It was just that they were able to witness someone who had lived the life that they lived go free, basically. So that's why I do.
Well, like they say, if you can reach at least one person, listening to you and watching your TikTok videos, I consider you, my own personal opinion, I consider you an activist. So do you not think that you're on that level? I mean, you may not be out there holding a sign and, going and doing the march on Washington and things like that, but I consider you an activist. So
I'm going to tell you a story about that. The COF of the Black Liberation Movement, his name is Patrick Alexander. And I remember when I first started speaking out on systemic racism and oppression and Black liberation, and how truly hard it was. And we had a conversation about advocating and being, a revolutionary. And he said, I said, I wouldn't consider myself that. And his comment to me was, and you shouldn't, but other people will. And that's when you become that person. That's when you become the activist, if you will, when other people see you that way. And so I guess officially, because you're the first person that's ever said that to me, that is what I'm doing. I am advocating, by telling my truth, by telling my story, by being transparent. And no matter how embarrassing or humiliating it is to me to tell the story, no matter what people think or the stigma that's placed on battered women, it's necessary, because there are women like me, brilliant, wonderful, beautiful women who are being abused in a way that you don't even have any idea. I spoke on this. I'm sure you saw the video. There is spiritual violence, mental violence, emotional violence, physical violence. It's not just one thing. It is daily abuse in some way. They will use the Bible, God, your religion, your history, your health, your family. They will use everything they can against you, and they will violently attack you in every category that they can. And, you know, the one thing I do know is how alone and hopeless I felt. And that's what I speak to. I speak to that aloneness and that feeling of being alone and being so helpless and hopeless in that situation. That's really what I'm speaking to in the women, you know, because the brokenness is something that they have to recognize.
So, Kimberly, if you were to join an organization or even start one yourself, because there's something that you said that a lot of these shelters and whatever they're doing is they're looking to relocate you, maybe give you a little bit of money, you know, do you need some food, whatever. But like you said, they're not helping you heal. So have you thought of starting something where exactly what you're saying, like, we'll help you do the rest of this stuff, but you need to, like you need to heal before you can move into your apartment, before you can you need to, you know, what you were saying.
I haven't in that directly related to abuse. I think that what I do on my podcast on Podbean and some of what I do on my podcast on YouTube is directed to healing. And it is me, like I've said repeatedly, healing publicly in front of people. Like watch some of my shows. You will see men and women challenge me, and me accepting the challenge, and you will see the brokenness in me come out. You will see my truth come out. You will see my tears and my pain. You will see all of that come out. And if, you know, and that's my advocacy, definitely, for love and for healing. I just haven't, I don't know what the word would be, but, you know, I haven't directed it to one thing, right? Like directed it to, because I come from so much violence, like childhood. I mean, I could advocate for sexual molestation. You know, I was molested by 3 of my relatives, men and women. I was raped at a young age. I lost a child at a young age, and then I was abused, and I came from verbally violent people and incest and molest. You know, there's so many things I could advocate for, but every single one of those things to become the woman that you're intended to become involves healing. So for me to advocate for one of those things, I can't pick one, but all of them need the healing. You have to heal from all of those things, no matter what they are, no matter what.
But that's what I mean, you know, that you're not necessarily picking one, but you're kind of just bringing them all together and just helping people. I mean, because while you're helping other people, you're helping yourself, and they in turn are helping you. So
agreed.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I allow people to challenge me. I embrace it. Please, you know, teach me, because I'm teaching myself. Yes, I did, but you still have to do your own work. You still have to put in the time and the effort to heal the wound.
Yeah.
You still have to do that. Definitely. That I'm definitely advocating for. Whatever your circumstances are, find a way, find a book, find a subject, find a outlet, whatever you need to do, but heal in every way. And then address the behaviors that are behind the broken you, because they will still come to the forefront. So, you know, healing and love. That's all I got.
We're going to wrap this up, but I do want to ask you, part of your healing, or just something that you like to do. What do you like to do? Because I will say this, I started doing this about 2 years ago. And my son is an artist. He's in school. He's doing the whole art thing, whatever, going to get his master's, all the other stuff. And he draws a lot. And about 2 years ago, I got an adult coloring book. And sometimes when I'm just like stressed out, whatever, I will pull out that book. I don't color with crayons. I like the colored pencils, whatever, and I'll just sit there and I'll color whatever. And then my son will come in and goes, you colored this, Mom? I mean, I'm like, I can stay within in the lines, whatever. But 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 I can't draw, but I can color, whatever. And I have found that to be a relaxing thing. Sometimes I'll, like, if I'm walking the dog, I'll take my coloring book with me and I'll sit, at a table, whatever, I'll just color, whatever. So what do you find that you do that's relaxing?
Well, first of all, I'm a Gemini, so I don't have anything consistently that I do. I read a lot. I used to write all the time, and it just kind of got to like a Facebook post where I wrote. But I have been inspired lately to write by another poet, and I've been doing a lot of writing. I do paint, but I'm DIY. Like I buy like my desk and I paint it, or I buy a dresser and I redo it. And, but there's so many things that, I tried meditation, didn't work for me. I've tried a lot of things, but you have to find something, and the biggest advice that I can give during the process is that there are going to be days, like in my most healing times, like even now, the last couple of days, like I told you, my energy's been off, but I'm aware of it. You have to sit with it. I've had to accept the fact that even on this healing journey, and I feel so healed and so happy and so whole, that there are days force, and you realize, it gives you more gratitude for where you're at and what you've been through and how you've moved through it and where you're at. But you have to sit with it, because you don't get to sit with it when you're in the abuse. You don't have time. You can't. And so this is the time now that I have to sit with my fears and my anxiety and my hurts and my sadness. And I have to accept that there are times that this is going to be the case. Times when the painting won't help, when the writing won't help, submerging myself in water won't help. Like none of these things are going to help. And so you just have to realize that you have to sit there in it. You have to embrace it, talk to it, understand why it's there. And then, like I say, kick the bitch out. I got shit to do. I don't have time to do it, right? But you have to take the time, but you have to find something. There's a million ways that you can heal, and a million things that will heal, whether it's coloring, writing, walking, running, bicycling, whatever it needs, shooting range. I don't care what degree it is, whatever moves you to heal these wounds, you have to heal them, and you have to find what works for you. It's not going to be the same as everybody else.
Okay.
It might resemble it, like your resembles, people color, but everybody needs something different. But mine is definitely in this moment writing. Do a lot of it now. So
okay, all right. Well, Miss Kimberly Michael, would you like to tell people what platforms you're on, and everyone, just so you know, when this is published, it will be published onto YouTube under I Am My Own Story, and I will put in all the links and everything where you can find her. But Kimberly, you want to tell everyone where you are?
I'm on Podbean on Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Central Time. I'm on YouTube on Tuesday nights. I am under savagecom.entertainment, Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Central Time. And I am on TikTok on the regular now. Everything across the board, though, is In Love with Kimberly Michael.
In Love with Kimberly
As everyone
Michael.
knows.
Okay. And are people able to reach out to you through email or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm In Love with Kimberly Michael at gmail.com. They can reach out to me on any of the platforms. I'm actually on Instagram as well too. I just don't do a lot there, but I am there. And I'm, and anybody can inbox me. I mean, I'm open book when it comes to that. Like, if you want to reach out to me, I will reach back to you. But I normally don't pursue a broken individual, because, they need to be ready. People have to be ready.
Okay. All right, everyone. Well, Kimberly, thank you so much for your time and giving up your morning, afternoon on a Saturday. I can't. I'm trying to, since we're 2 hours difference, but thank you so much. And everyone, thank you for watching and listening. So we'll see you next time. Bye.